The medical center on Nexus Prime Station had never been so quiet. Doctors from 12 different species stood in the observation room, staring at the screens showing the small form lying on the bed. None of them spoke. They had tried everything they knew, and nothing had worked. Ambassador stood with his hands pressed against the glass. His daughter was dying, and the best doctors in the galaxy could not save her. The child was only 8 years old. Her neural pathways were breaking down, and no one understood why. Doctor, the chief medical officer, checked his scanner again. The physician had 40 years of experience and access to the most advanced technology ever created. But all his knowledge meant nothing now. The machines showed brain activity fatting hour by hour. "There must be something else we can try," said. His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the fear behind his words. Shook his head. "We have exhausted every treatment protocol. The quantum scanners show cellular breakdown at the molecular level. Our genetic rebuilders cannot keep pace with the degradation. I am sorry, Ambassador." The other doctors murmured agreement. They had used every tool, every technique, every piece of technology at their disposal. The child's condition was beyond their understanding. Commander Ben entered the observation room. He was human, one of the few still serving in the Galactic Union fleet. He carried a data pad and looked uncomfortable. "Ambassador, I may have an option," Ben said carefully, "but you will not like it." Everyone turned to look at him, frowned. "Commander, we do not need false hope right now. We need solutions." "I know someone who might help," Ben continued. "A human doctor, her name is Helen Carter." Made a dismissive gesture. "A human doctor? Commander, we have specialists from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy here. What could a human possibly offer that we have not already attempted?" Ben met his gaze. "She practices old-style medicine, the kind humans used before we joined the Galactic Union." Several doctors laughed. One of them, a named Kolos, spoke up. "You mean primitive medicine, cutting and stitching, chemicals derived from plants? That is ancient history, Commander. We evolved beyond such crude methods centuries ago." "Maybe that is the problem," Ben said quietly. Turned from the window. "Explain." Ben took a breath. "Dr. Carter works at a research colony in the outer systems. She is one of the last humans who still practices traditional medicine. She claims that your advanced technology makes you blind to certain things that old-fashioned examination would catch." Crossed his arms. "That is absurd. Our scanners can detect individual molecules. They can map neural pathways in real time. What could manual examination possibly reveal that our technology cannot?" "I do not know," Ben admitted. "But Dr. Carter has solved cases that stumped modern doctors before. She says machines see everything but understand nothing." "Nonsense," Kolos said. "Ambassador, I must advise against this. Human medicine is outdated. It would be a waste of precious time." Looked at his daughter through the glass. His breathing was shallow. Her skin had taken on a gray tint. The monitors showed her neural activity dropping further. "How long does she have?" asked. Consulted his scanner. "Perhaps 20 hours, maybe less." "Then what do we have to lose?" His voice was firm now. "Commander, bring your Dr. Carter here immediately." Started to protest, but raised his hand. "I have heard enough about advanced medicine today. If she is going to die anyway, I want to try everything, even primitive human methods." Ben nodded and left quickly. Looked angry, but he said nothing more. 3 hours later, Helen Carter arrived at Nexus Prime. She was in her late 40s with tired eyes and gray streaks in her dark hair. She carried a single bag with her. Ben met her at the docking port. "Thank you for coming, Dr. Carter," he said. "Call me Helen," she replied. "Show me to the patient." They walked through the pristine corridors of the medical center. Other doctors stared at Helen as she passed. Some looked curious, most looked skeptical. Was waiting in the observation room. He looked Helen up and down with obvious disapproval. "You are the human doctor." "I am," Helen said simply. "And what do you intend to do that we have not already tried?" Helen set her bag down and studied the screens showing condition. She was quiet for a long moment. "Can I examine her?" "The scanners provide complete data," said. "There is no need for physical contact." "I disagree." Helen turned to face him. "When did you last actually look at the patient, touch her, listen to her breathing?" Blinked. "That is unnecessary. The machines provide far more accurate information than human senses. Maybe, Helen said, but machines only tell you what they are programmed to look for. Let me see her. Looked at, the ambassador nodded. Let her try. They entered the treatment room, lay on the bed unconscious. Tubes and wires connected her to various machines. Lights blinked and displays showed constant streams of data. Helen approached slowly. She pulled a small device from her bag, recognized it as a stethoscope, an ancient tool humans once used. You cannot be serious, said. Helen ignored him. She placed the stethoscope against chest and listened. Then she checked the child's pulse with her fingers. She examined eyes, her skin, her reflexes. She spent 20 minutes conducting a thorough physical examination while the alien doctors watched in disbelief. Finally, Helen stepped back. She was frowning. Well, asked. His voice was tight with hope and fear. The scanners are looking at the wrong thing, Helen said. They see the neural breakdown, but they are missing the cause. Impossible, said. We have analyzed every system in her body. At the molecular level, yes, Helen agreed. But you are not seeing the pattern. These symptoms, the progression, the way her body is responding. I have seen something similar before. What are you saying? Moved closer. Helen met his eyes. I think this is not a genetic condition. It is an infection, a very specific kind that your scanners are not designed to detect because it operates on a different level than your technology scans for. Kolos shook his head. Ours would detect any pathogen. Would they? Helen asked. Or would they miss something that does not fit their programmed parameters? Your technology is incredible, but it has limitations. It can only find what it knows to look for. Was about to argue when one of the monitors beeped. Neural activity had dropped again. She is fatting faster, said. Helen turned to, let me try my methods. I need basic medical supplies, things you probably consider primitive, but if I am right about what is wrong with her, I can help. Did not hesitate. Do it. Use whatever you need. Looked shocked. Ambassador, this is highly irregular. Human medicine has not been used in mainstream treatment for 50 years. The risk is too great. The risk of doing nothing is greater, said firmly. Dr. Carter, you have 24 hours. Save my daughter. Helen worked through the night. Ben helped her gather supplies from the human colony ships docked at the station. Most of what she needed seemed laughably simple to the alien doctors watching. Basic antibiotics, simple injection systems, manual monitoring equipment. Stood in the observation room, arms crossed. She is using chemicals we abandoned 300 years ago. This is madness. It is his decision, Kolos said, glancing at Ambassador, who had not left his daughter's side. Inside the treatment room, Helen prepared her first injection. She had identified what she believed was causing neural breakdown. It was a rare infection, something similar to a disease that had once affected humans on Earth. The alien scanners had missed it because they were scanning at the quantum level, looking for genetic markers and molecular structures. They never looked at the simple bacterial level. This pathogen operates in the spaces between what your technology scans for, Helen explained too. It is too large for your molecular scanners to flag as important, but too small for your biological scans to categorize as threatening. It exists in a blind spot. How is that possible? Asked. Our technology is supposed to be perfect. Nothing is perfect, Helen said gently. Your technology is amazing, but it was designed by beings who think in certain ways. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one, but you need to be looking at the right scale to see it. She administered the first dose of antibiotics. Then she began the second part of her treatment, something that made actually laugh out loud through the speakers. Physical therapy. Helen carefully moved limbs, stimulating blood flow and neural pathways manually. She adjusted the child's position. She monitored temperature and pulse with her hands, not with machines. She is treating her like a broken machine that needs manual adjustment, said with disbelief. This is not medicine, this is guesswork. Ben, who had joined them in the observation room, spoke up. Is it, or is it experience? Helen has treated thousands of patients. She recognizes patterns you do not see because you have always relied on scanners. Patterns, scoffed. We have databases with billions of medical cases. Our artificial intelligence can recognize any pattern that exists. Can it? Ben challenged. Then why is dying? Had no answer for that. Hours passed. Helen continued her treatment. She combined modern pharmaceutical compounds with traditional diagnostic approaches. She watched constantly, noting tiny changes that the machines reported but the alien doctors did not understand the significance of. At hour 12's condition stabilized. Not improved, but stopped declining. It was a small change, but it was the first positive sign in days. Felt hope stir in his chest. Is it working? Too soon to tell, Helen said honestly. But she is not getting worse, that is something. Studied the readouts. He was forced to admit the neural degradation had slowed. This could be coincidence, a natural fluctuation. Could be, Helen agreed. Or it could be the antibiotics beginning to fight the infection. She continued her work. Every few hours, she administered medication. She performed more physical therapy. She talked to, even though the child was unconscious. She explained that studies on Earth had shown unconscious patients could sometimes hear and respond to familiar voices. So she encouraged to talk to his daughter to tell her stories, to remind her why she needed to fight. The alien doctors found this absurd, but did it anyway. At hour 18, something changed. Neural activity increased slightly. Then her fingers twitched, small movements barely noticeable, but they were there. Helen checked her pulse manually. It was stronger. She listened to his heart and breathing. Both had improved. She is responding, Helen said quietly. Leaned forward. Can you hear me? There was no response, but the monitors showed increased brain activity. Was still unconscious, but her body was beginning to heal. Stared at the data in disbelief. This should not be possible. Those antibiotics are primitive. They work too slowly. They lack the precision of our base treatments. Maybe that is why they work, Ben suggested. Maybe your treatments were too precise, too targeted. They went after specific genetic markers while missing the actual infection. Helen emerged from the treatment room 20 hours after she had started. She looked exhausted but satisfied. She is going to make it. The fever has broken. Neural activity is increasing. She should regain consciousness within the next few hours. Grabbed Helen's hands. Thank you, you saved her. She is not out of danger yet, Helen cautioned. But the worst is past. Her body is fighting the infection now. The antibiotics gave her immune system the help it needed. Approached Helen slowly. He looked uncomfortable. Dr. Carter, I owe you an apology. I was wrong to dismiss your methods. Helen nodded. You were trained to trust your technology. That is not wrong, but technology is a tool. It should not replace knowledge and experience. How did you know what to look for? Kolos asked. He had been watching everything with growing interest. I did not at first, Helen admitted. But I know how to examine a patient, really examine them, not just read scanner data. I felt her skin temperature. I listened to her breathing pattern. I checked her reflexes. All things your machines can measure, but you were not paying attention to what those measurements meant together. She pulled out her data pad and showed them. Your scanners reported elevated bacterial presence in 17 locations. Your AI dismissed it as normal flora, but the distribution pattern was wrong. The bacteria were concentrated near neural tissue. That is not normal. A human doctor would have caught that immediately because we are trained to look at the whole picture, not just individual data points. Studied the data. She was right. The pattern had been there all along, but their systems had filtered it out as irrelevant. We have become too dependent on our technology, he said slowly. We stopped thinking like doctors and started thinking like technicians. Technology is wonderful, Helen said, but it cannot replace judgment. It cannot replace experience. It should enhance our abilities, not replace them. At hour 24, opened her eyes. She was weak but conscious, wept with relief as he held his daughter's hand. Papa's voice was barely a whisper. I am here, little one. You are going to be fine. Looked around the room and saw Helen. Who is she? This is Dr. Carter, said. She saved your life. Helen smiled at the child. Hello, how do you feel? Tired, said, but better. What happened to me? You were very sick, Helen explained simply. But your body is strong, you fought hard. Over the next few days, continued to improve. Helen monitored her recovery, gradually reducing the medication as the child's immune system took over. She taught how to care for his daughter during recovery. Simple things like proper nutrition, rest, and gradual activity. The other doctors watched and learned. Asked Helen to give a presentation on human diagnostic methods. She agreed, and 40 doctors from different species attended. Helen explained how human medicine had developed over thousands of years through observation and trial, how doctors learned to recognize patterns in symptoms, how physical examination could reveal things machines might miss. Your technology is superior to ours in many ways, Helen told them. But medicine is not just science. It is also art. It requires intuition, experience, and the ability to see the patient as a whole being, not just a collection of systems. After the presentation, several doctors approached her with questions. They wanted to know more about human methods. Some admitted they had cases they could not solve with their technology. Ben found Helen in the cafeteria later that day. She was drinking coffee and looking tired but content. "You have started something here," he said. "Maybe," Helen replied. "But there are only 47 human doctors left in the galaxy who still practice traditional medicine. Most humans switched to alien technology when we joined the Union. They thought it was better." "Is it?" Ben asked. Helen considered the question. "It is different. Both approaches have value. The best medicine would combine them, human intuition and experience with alien technology and precision." "You should teach that," Ben said. Before Helen could respond, an alarm sounded. Burst into the cafeteria, his face urgent. "Dr. Carter, we need you. There is an outbreak on mining colony Perseus. 300 people sick. Our treatments are not working. Will you help?" Helen stood immediately, her coffee forgotten. "What are the symptoms?" As described the situation, Helen's expression grew serious. This was bigger than one sick child. This was an epidemic, and once again, advanced alien medicine had no answers. Mining colony Perseus looked like a ghost town. The transport ship landed in the main docking bay, and Helen could see the emptiness immediately. A place that should have been busy with workers was silent and still. Ben walked beside her down the ramp. Behind them came, and 3 other alien doctors who had volunteered to help. After seeing what Helen had done for, they wanted to learn more about human medicine. A tired-looking station manager met them at the entrance. His name was Price, and he looked like he had not slept in days. "Thank God you are here," said. "We have 312 sick, 42 dead already. Nothing we try makes any difference." "Show me," Helen said simply. They walked through empty corridors to the medical wing. It was overwhelmed. Patients lay on beds, on floors, anywhere there was space. All of them showed the same symptoms: high fever, respiratory distress, skin lesions, confusion. Helen moved among them, examining patients quickly but thoroughly. She asked questions. When did symptoms start? What were they doing before getting sick? Where did they work in the mine? The alien doctors ran their scanners. The machines showed viral markers, bacterial infections, and cellular breakdown, but nothing indicated what was causing it or how to stop it. Looked frustrated. "The pathogen is mutating faster than our can adapt. Every treatment we develop becomes useless within hours." Helen continued her examination. She was not looking at individual patients anymore. She was looking at patterns. Who got sick first? Who got sick next? Where were they located in the colony? "I need a map of the colony," she said, "and a list of every patient's living quarters and work assignments." Provided the data, Helen spread the map across a table and began marking locations. Red dots for the first patients, blue dots for the next wave, green for the most recent cases. A pattern emerged. "Look at this," Helen said, pointing to the map. "The infection started in the south residential section, then it spread to the main water processing plant, then to the north residential section." "Waterborne transmission," one of the other doctors, unnamed, said immediately. "Possibly," Helen agreed. "But look closer. The spread is not even. Some areas near the water plant are not affected at all. Other areas far from it have high infection rates." She studied the map more carefully. Then she asked, "Where are your medical dispensers located?" Showed her there were 6 dispensers throughout the colony. Every resident received regular treatments for health maintenance. It was standard practice on all Galactic Union colonies. Helen marked the dispenser locations on her map. Her eyes widened. "There," she said, pointing. "The infection pattern matches the dispenser locations exactly." Leaned over the map. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "No, that is impossible. Medical prevent disease. They do not cause it." "Usually," Helen said. But what if something in this colony is interfering with them? What if they are not protecting people but making them more vulnerable? To what? Asked. Helen turned to, what are you mining here? Or said, rich deposits, that is why the colony was established. Helen repeated. She pulled out her data pad and began searching through medical databases. Human medical databases, not the Galactic Union ones. After several minutes, she found what she was looking for. There, dust. On Earth, we had similar problems with certain mineral dusts. They cause respiratory illness, but here is the key point. These dust particles can interact with technology in unexpected ways. She showed them the research, studies from early human space mining, cases where workers with implants had become sick from mineral exposure. Trying to repair lung tissue had actually spread the mineral particles deeper into the body, making the problem worse. Your medical are designed to identify and eliminate threats, Helen explained. But they are identifying the dust as cellular damage and trying to fix it. In the process, they are breaking down the dust into smaller particles that enter the bloodstream. That causes system-wide inflammation and infection. Checked his scanner data again. The cellular breakdown patterns do match activity, but our systems show they are functioning correctly. They are, Helen said. They are doing exactly what they are programmed to do. That is the problem. They cannot recognize that they are making things worse. So what do we do? Asked desperately. We cannot shut down they are integrated into everyone's biology. Helen was quiet for a moment thinking. Then she said, we do not shut them down, we override them, temporarily. How? Asked. Human medicine, Helen said. Old-fashioned chelation therapy. We use simple chemical compounds to bind with the particles and flush them from the body. They will register the chelation agents as medicine and leave them alone. Meanwhile, we treat the inflammation and infection with basic antibiotics and anti-inflammatory drugs. That will take days, protested. Many patients may not survive that long. Then we triage, Helen said firmly. We treat the sickest first. We set up proper quarantine protocols to prevent more exposure, and we shut down the mining operation until we can implement proper safety procedures. Looked sick. Shutting down the mine means shutting down the colony's entire economy. Keeping it open means killing everyone here, Helen said bluntly. The choice is simple. Made the decision. The mine was shut down immediately. Helen organized the medical response like a military operation. She divided the sick into 3 groups based on severity. Critical patients received immediate treatment. Moderate cases were stabilized and monitored. Mild cases were isolated and given preventive treatment. She taught the alien doctors how to perform chelation therapy, how to monitor patients manually, not just with scanners, how to recognize signs of improvement or decline that machines might miss. Proved to be a quick learner. He had been skeptical at first, but now he listened carefully to everything Helen taught. He began teaching the other doctors, translating Helen's human medical knowledge into terms they could understand. The first day was chaos. Helen moved from patient to patient, making decisions, adjusting treatments, teaching. She barely stopped to eat or drink. Ben had to force her to take breaks. You cannot help anyone if you collapse, he told her. Helen knew he was right, but there were so many sick people. Every moment she rested was a moment someone might die. On the second day, the first patients began to improve. Fevers broke, breathing eased. The skin lesions started healing. The chelation therapy was working, though was being flushed from their systems, and without it, the stopped causing damage. By the third day, the death rate had dropped to 0. No one knew was dying. Patients were recovering. Found Helen in the makeshift pharmacy, preparing more medication. He looked tired but excited. Dr. Carter, I need to show you something, he said. He pulled up data on his scanner. I have been comparing our treatment results with traditional Galactic Union protocols for similar conditions. Your methods are 40% more effective, 40%, and using far simpler tools. Helen smiled wearily. Sometimes simple is better. I am beginning to understand that, admitted. I spent 40 years believing that more technology always meant better medicine, but you have shown me that technology without wisdom is incomplete. And wisdom without technology is limited, Helen added. The best approach uses both. Ambassador arrived on the colony on the 4th day. He brought with him. The child was fully recovered now, bright and energetic. saw Helen and ran to her. "Dr. Helen, Papa said you are saving more people." Helen hugged the child. "I am trying. How are you feeling?" "Perfect," said. "Papa says I can go back to school next week." Approached, "Dr. Carter, I came to thank you again, and to discuss something important." They found a quiet office, sat across from Helen and Ben. His expression was serious. "The Galactic Medical Council has been watching your work here," said. "What you are doing here, it has caused quite a stir." "I am just doing my job," Helen said. "You are doing more than that," said. "You are showing the galaxy that we have lost something important. We became so focused on advancing technology that we forgot the fundamentals of medicine." He pulled out a data pad. "I am proposing legislation to establish a medical academy, a place where doctors can learn both advanced technology and traditional methods, human methods." Helen was quiet for a moment. "That would require teachers, experts in human medicine." "It would require you," said directly. "I want you to lead this academy, to train the next generation of doctors in combined techniques." "I am just one person," Helen protested. "There is too much knowledge to teach alone." "You would not be alone," said. "We would recruit every human doctor still practicing traditional medicine. We would provide funding, facilities, everything you need. But we need someone to lead it, someone who has proven that human medicine still has value." Ben spoke up. "This could change everything, Helen, not just medicine. You would be preserving human knowledge that was almost lost." Helen thought about her mentor, the one who had died because alien doctors could not diagnose his simple condition. She thought about all the medical knowledge humans had accumulated over thousands of years, knowledge that was being forgotten as everyone switched to alien technology. "I will do it," she said finally, "on one condition." "Name it," said. "This academy teaches that no single approach is perfect. Not alien technology, not human tradition. The goal is integration, not replacement. We learn from each other." Smiled, agreed. "I would not want it any other way." As they shook hands, an alarm sounded in the medical wing. Helen stood immediately. The alarm had been for a patient in critical condition, a young miner named whose lungs had been badly damaged by dust. Helen and worked together for 3 hours to stabilize him. They used a combination of chelation therapy, human respiratory treatments, and carefully controlled activity. When finally stabilized, leaned against the wall, exhausted but satisfied. "I would not have known how to do that a week ago," he said. "I would have relied entirely on and likely made things worse." "You learned fast," Helen said. "That is the important thing." Over the next 2 weeks, every patient on mining colony Perseus recovered. Not a single additional death occurred after Helen implemented her treatment protocols. The colony's medical staff, who had been overwhelmed and hopeless, now had new skills and new confidence. The doctor approached Helen on the last day before departure. "Dr. Carter, would it be possible for me to study at your academy when it opens?" "You would give up your position here?" Helen asked. "I would give up anything to learn what you know," said sincerely. "You saved 300 lives using methods I did not even consider. I want to be able to do that." Helen smiled. "Then you will be one of my first students." Word of Helen's success spread quickly through the Galactic Union. News services reported the story. Medical journals published papers. Within a month, Helen received over 200 requests for assistance from colonies and stations across the galaxy. She could not help them all personally, but that was why the academy was so important. Ben helped Helen establish a temporary office on Nexus Prime Station. The response to his proposal had been overwhelming. 12 planetary governments offered to host the academy. 300 doctors from 40 species applied to teach or study there. Helen interviewed potential faculty members. She was looking for doctors who were willing to learn, not just teach, who understood that combining approaches required humility and open-mindedness. Was her first hire. The doctor who had once dismissed human medicine as primitive now wanted to dedicate his life to teaching it. "What changed your mind?" Helen asked him during the interview. Was quiet for a moment. "I realized that I had stopped being a doctor and become a technician. I operated machines, I read data, but I did not truly see my patients anymore. You taught me to see again." He was hired immediately. Over the next 3 months, Helen recruited 15 faculty members from 8 different species. All of them had experience with advanced alien medicine. All of them were willing to learn human methods. The most surprising recruit was an elderly human doctor named Griffin. He was 78 years old and had been living in retirement on a remote colony. "I thought I was the last one," said when he met Helen. "I thought all the other traditional doctors had switched to alien methods or died." "There are 47 of us left," Helen told him. 48 counting you." His eyes filled with tears. "I have been practicing alone for 30 years, teaching myself from old textbooks. I thought our medical heritage would die with me." "Not anymore," Helen said. "Will you help me teach?" "It would be an honor," replied. The Galactic Medical Council met to vote on the Academy proposal. The chamber was filled with representatives from 200 species. Some supported the idea. Others opposed it, arguing that human medicine was obsolete. Ambassador presented the case. He showed data from mining colony Perseus. He showed recovery. He showed statistics proving that combined methods produced better outcomes than technology alone. Then herself addressed the assembly. The 8-year-old child stood at the speaker's podium, looking tiny but brave. Her voice was clear as she spoke. "The machine said I would die," told the assembled representatives. "The best doctors in the galaxy could not save me, but Dr. Helen did. She saved me by using old ways, simple ways. She touched me with her hands. She listened to my heart. She saw what the machines could not see." Paused, then continued. "My papa taught me that wisdom comes from many places. Maybe the machines are smarter than hands, but maybe hands can feel things machines cannot. Maybe both together are best." The chamber was silent when she finished. Then, slowly, representatives began to stand and applaud. More joined them. Within moments, the entire assembly was on their feet. The vote was called. The Academy was approved by an overwhelming majority. Helen was in her office when Ben brought her the news. She sat down slowly, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. "You did it," Ben said. "The Academy is real." "We did it," Helen corrected. "None of this would have happened without you, without all the doctors who were willing to learn." Ben smiled. "So what now?" "Now we build something that lasts," Helen said. "We create a medical system that uses the best of all our knowledge, human and alien, old and new." Construction on the Medical Academy began immediately. The site chosen was on Nexus Prime itself, adjacent to the existing medical center. The facility would include classrooms, laboratories, simulation rooms, and a teaching hospital. Helen spent her days planning curriculum and recruiting more faculty. Her nights were filled with treating patients who sought her help. She barely slept, but she had never been happier. Griffin became her closest colleague. The elderly doctor had decades of experience with traditional human medicine. Together, they designed courses that taught fundamental diagnostic skills alongside advanced technology use. "The key is balance," explained to the first group of students during orientation. "Technology can show you what is happening inside a body, but only experience and observation can tell you what it means." The first class of students included 60 doctors from 23 species. Some were young, fresh from their initial medical training. Others were experienced physicians who wanted to expand their knowledge. Taught a popular course on recognizing diagnostic blind spots. He used his own failure as a case study, showing how over-reliance on technology had almost cost the child her life. Taught physiology, emphasizing the importance of understanding biological differences when applying treatments across species. Helen taught the core diagnostic course. She brought students to actual patients and showed them how to perform physical examinations, how to listen, how to observe, how to think critically about data instead of accepting it blindly. The students struggled at first. Many had never actually touched a patient before. They had always relied on scanners and sensors. But gradually, they learned. 6 months after the academy opened, one of Helen's students, a young named, solved a case that had stumped the Nexus Prime Medical Center for weeks. A patient with unexplained seizures. The scanners showed nothing wrong. Performed a complete physical examination, just as Helen had taught him. He noticed a subtle irregularity in the patient's breathing pattern, something the machines had recorded but flagged as insignificant. Recognized it as a sign of a rare metabolic disorder. One that scanners could not detect because they were looking for genetic markers instead of functional symptoms. The patient was treated successfully. When reported his success to Helen, she felt pride swell in her chest. This was why the Academy mattered. This was why preserving human medical knowledge was important. One evening, Helen sat in her office reviewing student progress reports. Ben knocked on her door. "You should see this," he said, handing her a data pad. It was a message from the Galactic Medical Council. They reported that mortality rates had decreased by 18% in facilities where Academy-trained doctors were working. Treatment success rates had increased by 23%. "You are changing the galaxy," Ben said softly. Helen looked at the numbers. Each percentage point represented thousands of lives saved. People who would have died under the old system were now surviving. "We are changing the galaxy," she corrected. "This was never about me. It was about showing everyone that we are stronger together than apart, that human knowledge and alien technology can complement each other." She stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Nexus Prime Station. Millions of beings living and working together, different species, different cultures, different ways of thinking. "That is what the Academy represents," Helen continued. "Not just medicine, but cooperation, learning from each other, recognizing that every civilization has something valuable to contribute." Ben joined her at the window. "Your mentor would be proud." Helen nodded. He would. He always said that medicine was not about being right, it was about helping people, using whatever methods work regardless of where they come from. A message appeared on her data pad. Another medical emergency. A station in the outer systems, multiple casualties. The local doctors needed help. Helen picked up her medical bag. After all these months, it was still the same simple bag she had carried when she first came to save. "Are you going?" Ben asked. "Not this time," Helen said. "I am sending in 3 of our advanced students. They are ready." Ben raised his eyebrows. "You trust them to handle it alone?" Helen smiled. "They are not alone. They have everything I taught them, and they have their own knowledge and skills. They do not need me standing over their shoulders anymore." That was the real victory, she thought. Not that she had saved lives, but that she had taught others how to save lives. The Academy would continue long after she was gone. Human medical knowledge would not be lost. It would grow and evolve, combining with alien wisdom to create something better than either alone. Outside her window, a transport ship launched from the docking bay. On board were her students. Heading 1 year after opening its doors, the Medical Academy had become the most respected medical institution in the galaxy. Doctors trained there were sought after by hospitals and clinics on every major world. The Academy's approach, combining traditional human medicine with advanced alien technology, had proven superior to either method alone. Helen stood before the Galactic Medical Assembly, preparing to present the Academy's annual report. The assembly hall was packed. Representatives from 200 species waited to hear what she had to say. She began with statistics. Patient mortality rates in Academy-affiliated hospitals had dropped by 32%. Treatment success rates had increased by 40%. Diagnostic accuracy had improved across every measurable category. But numbers were not the full story. "These statistics represent lives," Helen told the assembly. "Children who survived diseases that would have killed them, workers who recovered from injuries that would have crippled them, families that were not torn apart by preventable deaths." She showed case studies. A child with a rare genetic disorder, saved by a combination of human gene therapy techniques and alien cellular reconstruction. A human miner with radiation poisoning, treated using methods developed by doctors and refined with traditional human detoxification protocols. "The Academy's greatest success is not any single treatment," Helen continued. "It is the philosophy we teach. No one approach has all the answers. Every civilization, every species, every medical tradition has something valuable to offer. Our strength lies in combining that knowledge." Ambassador spoke next. He had become the Academy's strongest advocate in the Galactic Council. "1 year ago, my daughter was dying," said. "The most advanced medicine in the galaxy could not save her. Then a human doctor used methods we considered primitive and lived. That moment taught me something important. Progress is not about abandoning the past. It is about building on it." He gestured to the data displayed on the screens. These results speak for themselves, but I want to propose we go further. I am introducing legislation to require all medical schools in the Galactic Union to teach combined methodology, to ensure that future doctors learn both technology and traditional diagnostic skills. The proposal sparked immediate debate. Some representatives argued that mandating curriculum was government overreach. Others worried about the cost of retraining existing medical staff. But the majority supported it. The evidence was too strong to ignore. While the assembly debated, Helen returned to the academy. She had a class to teach. Her students that day included a mix of species and experience levels. Some were fresh medical school graduates. Others were seasoned doctors who had come to learn new techniques. All of them listened intently as Helen demonstrated proper patient examination procedures. "The scanner will tell you that this patient has elevated heart rate," Helen said, gesturing to the volunteer patient on the exam table. "But why? Is it anxiety, infection, pain? The machine cannot tell you. You must observe, listen, ask questions." She showed them how to check pulse manually, noting not just the rate but the rhythm and strength, how to observe breathing patterns, how to assess skin temperature and color, how to read body language for signs of discomfort. "These are simple skills," Helen said. "Our ancestors on Earth developed them thousands of years ago, but they are still relevant today because they connect you to your patient. They make you think instead of just reading data." A young student named raised his hand. "But Dr. Carter, is this not inefficient? The scanners are faster and more accurate." "Are they?" Helen asked. "Let me show you something." She pulled up a case file. This patient presented with headaches. The scanners showed normal brain activity, normal blood flow, no tumors, no infections. The attending physician prescribed pain medication and sent him home. 3 days later, the patient collapsed. Emergency surgery revealed a subdural hematoma, a slow bleed that the scanners had missed. Helen continued. "A traditional examination would have caught it. The patient had subtle asymmetry in his pupils, a slight weakness on one side. His headache pattern was consistent with intracranial pressure, but the doctor never examined him physically. He trusted the scanners completely." The students were quiet, absorbing the lesson. "Scanners are tools," Helen said. "Valuable, powerful tools, but they are not a replacement for clinical judgment. You must learn to use both." After class found Helen in her office. The doctor had become one of the academy's most popular instructors. His course on diagnostic errors had a waiting list. "I have news," said. "The medical council on my home world has contacted me. They want to establish a sister campus of the academy. They want me to run it." Helen felt a pang of sadness. Had become more than a colleague, he was a friend, but she knew this was important. "Will you accept?" she asked. "I wanted your opinion first," said. "You gave me this opportunity. I do not want to abandon what we built here." Helen smiled. "You are not abandoning anything. You are spreading it. This is exactly what should happen. The Academy's methods need to reach every corner of the galaxy. I cannot do that alone." "Then I will accept," said, "but I will miss working with you daily." "We will stay in contact," Helen promised. "And you will train the next generation of teachers. That is how knowledge survives and grows." Over the following months, 3 more sister campuses opened. One in the system, one in human-controlled space near Earth. Each campus taught the same integrated approach, adapted for local needs and species-specific requirements. The Academy's graduates began taking leadership positions across the galaxy. They became chief medical officers on major stations. They ran hospitals on colony worlds. They led research teams developing new treatments. And everywhere they went, they brought the philosophy Helen had taught them. Question assumptions, examine patients thoroughly, combine old wisdom with new technology, never stop learning. Griffin retired after 2 years of teaching. He was 80 years old and ready to rest. On his last day, students and faculty gathered to honor him. "I spent 30 years thinking I was the last guardian of human medical knowledge," said in his farewell speech. "I thought when I died it would all be lost, but now I see hundreds of doctors from dozens of species who know what I know, who value what I value. The knowledge will not die, it will grow. I can rest now." Helen embraced the old doctor. "Thank you for everything you taught me." "I should thank you," replied. "You did what I could not. You showed the galaxy that our medical heritage still matters." The Academy's 3rd year brought new challenges. As more doctors adopted combined methodologies, they encountered cases that required new approaches, diseases that responded to neither traditional human medicine nor advanced alien technology alone. Helen established a research division focused on developing integrated treatments. Teams of human and alien doctors worked together, combining their knowledge to create new therapies. One team discovered that certain human antibiotics, when combined with, could treat previously incurable infections. Another team developed a diagnostic tool that paired advanced scanning technology with AI trained on thousands of human case studies, creating a system that matched technological precision with clinical intuition. The innovations kept coming. Each one saved lives. Each one proved that cooperation and integration were more powerful than any single approach. Now 10 years old, visited the academy regularly. She had decided she wanted to become a doctor. Helen tutored her personally, teaching her the fundamentals of medicine. "Why do you want to be a doctor?" Helen asked during one session. "Because you saved my life," said simply. "I want to save other people too." "You could do many things with your life," Helen pointed out. "Why medicine specifically?" Thought carefully before answering. "Because doctors help people when they are most scared and vulnerable, because medicine is about hope. You gave my father hope when everyone else said there was none. I want to do that for other families." Helen felt tears prick her eyes. This child understood what medicine was truly about. On the Academy's 5th anniversary, the Galactic Medical Assembly held a special ceremony. They presented Helen with the Order of Healing, the highest medical honor in the galaxy. Only 3 beings had ever received it before. Helen accepted the award with grace, but in her speech she deflected the honor. "This award should not go to me alone," she said. "It should go to every human doctor who preserved traditional medical knowledge when it would have been easier to abandon it. To every alien doctor who was willing to learn new methods despite their own expertise. To every patient who trusted us as we developed these integrated approaches." She looked out at the audience. There were humans and aliens, young doctors and experienced ones, teachers and students. "5 years ago, I was called to save a dying child," Helen continued. "I used methods that most of you considered obsolete, but those methods worked because they were based on thousands of years of observation and experience. What we have built here is not about proving that human medicine is superior or that alien technology is inferior. It is about showing that we are stronger together." The assembly gave her a standing ovation. After the ceremony, Ben found Helen in the Academy's memorial garden. She was standing before a plaque dedicated to her mentor, the doctor who had inspired her to preserve human medical knowledge. "He would be proud," Ben said softly. "I hope so," Helen replied. "I wish he could see what we built." "In a way, he does," Ben said. "Every doctor we train carries forward the principles he taught you. Every patient we save is proof that his vision was right." Helen nodded. She looked at the garden around them. Each plant represented a medical tradition from a different world. Human and dozens of others, all growing together, each unique but part of a larger whole. That was what the Academy represented. Not the dominance of one approach over another, but the harmony of many approaches working together. A message chimed on her data pad. Another medical emergency. A remote station with limited resources needed consultation. Helen smiled. 5 years ago, she would have handled it alone. Now she had hundreds of graduates to call on. She contacted 3 of them, briefed them on the situation, and authorized them to respond. They did not need her to hold their hands anymore. They had the knowledge. They had the skills. They had the philosophy that would guide them to the right solutions. That evening, Helen sat in her office reviewing applications for the next incoming class. Over 1,000 doctors had applied for 200 positions. Each application represented someone who wanted to learn, who was willing to challenge their assumptions, who believed in the Academy's mission. Sent her a message from the campus. They had just celebrated their first graduating class. 50 doctors trained in integrated medicine, ready to serve their people. Sent updates from the campus. They had developed a new treatment for a common childhood illness, combining human pediatric techniques with regenerative medicine. Sister campuses across the galaxy were thriving. The movement Helen had started was becoming permanent. She heard a knock on her door, entered carrying a data pad. Dr. Helen, I finished my report on cardiovascular systems across different species, said proudly. Helen reviewed the work. It was excellent for a 10-year-old. Detailed, thoughtful, showing real understanding. This is good work, Helen said. You have a gift for seeing patterns across different physiologies. I learned from watching you, replied. Helen looked at the young girl. 5 years ago, she had been dying. Now she was vibrant, healthy, brilliant, and she wanted to dedicate her life to healing others. That was the true measure of success, Helen thought, not awards or recognition, but the knowledge that the work would continue, that the next generation would carry forward the mission, that hope would endure. Come on, Helen said, standing up. I want to show you something. They walked through the academy's corridors. Students and faculty greeted them as they passed. Humans and aliens working side by side, learning from each other, building something greater than themselves. They stopped at a large window overlooking the teaching hospital. Below, doctors treated patients using every method available to them. Scanners and stethoscopes and antibiotics, advanced AI and experienced intuition. This is what medicine should look like, Helen told. Not one way or another, but all ways together, each approach strengthening the others, each tradition respected and preserved. Watch the doctors work. It is beautiful. Yes, Helen agreed, it is. They stood there together, teacher and student, human and alien, looking at the future of medicine. A future where knowledge from every world was valued, where technology and tradition worked hand in hand, where no patient was given up on because the standard treatments had failed. A future where hope had returned, and it would never leave again. To their first independent mission, they carried medical equipment both old and new. They carried knowledge from Earth and from a dozen other worlds. They carried hope. We are not done here yet, she said. But as she hurried back to her patients, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. She looked at Ben. Get me transport to Perseus. We leave in 1 hour. The next challenge was waiting. Helen nodded. She already knew what she needed to do. The other doctors might think her methods were primitive, but right now, primitive medicine was this child's only hope. She opened her bag and began to work.